Right, so for this week's workshop update, I thought I'd do a video kind of every day of showing you what's going on and then compile them into one video. So today, there's the KA we've seen before. This Escort mini monster truck's been in to us before for tune-up a couple of years ago. So Steve's just currently doing an emissions setup on it and ignition timing. It's a 3.5 engine, customer rebuilt several years back, I believe. It's got the RPi ignition kit on, the ANO amplifiers there. It's got a Red Bull coil, or a Bosch coil in a Red Bull can, as it more likely is. The customer's made his own kind of plenum intake, just to increase the torque and the breathing ability of the engine as well. So Steve's doing an emissions setup. How are the emissions looking, Steve?
A bit rich, 3.1, 350 hydrocarbons.
So just going to turn it down a little because it was a little bit leaner than that before, wasn't it? So that's what we're up to here. If you can see that the sun's a bit bright on it. What year Escort is it?
83.
Which makes it a Mark. Well, let's finish revving the engine. So what Mark Escort is it?
Oh, Mark 3.
A Mark 3, okay, so I'm not up on Escorts, but... So it's a Range Rover Classic chassis, I think you said, didn't you? Yeah. And then the customers built the Escort on top. Very much the same as the KA's been done, only this one's finishing on the road. So that's one of the drop-in jobs today. So it's running the Edelbrock carburettor. It's obviously always our carburettor of choice. We do like something that's a bit different around here though. Right, so today in the workshop we've got the Royal Edition P38 Range Rover featured I think last week in our workshop. We're just doing a couple of little jobs on this so that it's ready for to sell. The customer's asked us to advertise it for him. I think the front and rear diff seals have been done, the gearbox has had fluid change, transfer box has had fluid change, rear airbags, rear discs, rear pads. This is quite a rare one, being a Royal Edition. It's also even rarer really because it was only imported from Japan in March. It landed in the UK I believe in March. We've got the paperwork obviously to show that as well. The dash and everything is still in kilometres, so is the odometer reading. So it is basically as it was sent out to Japan. A couple of little jobs under the bonnet. We've got the cruise control pipework here that goes through the bulkhead down to the brake pedal switch, and they quite commonly split. So we just ran a new pipe from the vac pump to the brake pedal there. And Steve is in the process at the moment of doing the air suspension pump rebuild. The suspension was a little bit slow to lift and kind of reprime the system, so we always do a new liner along with a new seal and the relevant O-rings and filters there. So you're just removing the old seal there, are you? Excellent. Everything look okay?
Yeah, it doesn't look too bad so far.
So that's what's going on there. We have also had this P38 Range Rover turn up with us. Been chatting to this guy for a little while now on Facebook. He's first time he's done a lot of mechanical work on the engine. He's actually pulled the 4-litre engine out and fitted a 4.6 engine. I believe he did a bit of a refresh on the engine. And he has kind of got to this stage, ran out of time and come across a couple of issues to starting it. So excuse me, he's dropped it off to us to have us kind of finish it off in terms of getting it running. So we've noticed a couple of things already. There's a few earths loose and that sort of thing. Unfortunately, because he's tried to start it in this state, the auto selector cable has been used as an earth and is now really stiff to move. So whereas this is normally really smooth, it's now really tight. So we'll be fitting another auto select cable. That's the problem when you don't get your earths on the block correct. We've got one here that should be on the back of the cylinder head. I think Steve found this one here, which is loose. the car will find another way of trying to earth out for the starter power. And the starters obviously consume quite high ampage, and therefore when an auto select cable is used, it will weld the inner cable to the outer cable. Obviously quite a few things still to connect on this and to check over before we actually attempt to start it at RPi. But we will be showing you the process on this. I know the customer's more than happy for us to show it on Facebook and just to kind of see the project finished. So that's a little bit of the workshop today. Right, today in the workshop, the P38 that you saw just a second ago in the video, but for us was yesterday. It's now on the ramp. Steve's now about to drain the oil out of the sump. The reason for that, because you'll notice this is probably clean oil, it should be anyway. Yeah, lovely look at that. We don't actually know what oil it is, I can find out from the customer, but we'll be replacing it with Valvoline 2050. The reason though we're draining it is because I've had a engine in before, or a vehicle in before, where the customer had fitted an engine and it didn't run right. Obviously this isn't actually up and running yet, and on that one previously the top timing wheel for the camshaft angle sensor was incorrect. They fitted a Thor one instead of a GEMS. So that sprung to mind as soon as we kind of got involved with this, because it's actually got a Thor Range Rover radiator fitted. Apparently that's just what the car came with, not what the customer's fitted. We've checked the crank angle sensor and that is a GEMS one, but in asking the customer what he'd done to the engine, he did change the timing chain set. Sent me a picture of what he'd fitted, and unfortunately he had fitted a Thor one, so the sump's got to come off to allow the front timing cover to come off for us to fit a GEMS timing chain set to the engine. Moving backwards along the car, you can see the exhaust isn't on. The customer has bought a brand new exhaust system. The actual back end of it looks like it's been made really nicely TIG welded. Don't know what make it is, but we'll see if that fits up. The Y piece I would say is slightly less better quality. It's still stainless, but it's had a few different bends put in it on a compression bender. Nothing wrong with that, but you would have hoped they'd have done it just in sort of 2 or 3 bends rather than 6 or 7. But anyway, so that's why we're draining the oil. Lots of things to check underneath this and replace. Obviously it's going to need new lambda sensors, because lambda sensor plug's been cut off. The driver side one's missing. The customer might have that. We'll Facebook him about that. So yeah, that's this project kind of moving along. I can see why the customer wanted to replace the exhaust. It is incredibly rusty and probably didn't have many minutes left in its survival. So wise choice replacing with stainless. Right, that's that bit. These engines that we shoe last week are all bar one stripped completely now. This one here has just got the crankshaft remaining in it. All the pistons and rods are out. So that's that little job done. The 50th anniversary, we've just got the prop shafts on this week. Not a lot of time spent on this week at all, but this big hole here will soon have an engine in it. That's being installed next week. Just suddenly remembered, SD1 update, not a lot this week because we've been on drop-in work. Next week is SD1 week. The headlining though doesn't fit particularly well. Obviously it's the wrong colour, which we already knew, but the hole for the sunroof is in the incorrect place. Been in contact with the company that supplied it to us, and they've asked for an overlay picture of it against the old one. So we still have the old one in storage. You can see why we're replacing it. So that will be getting overlaid, and a photo, some measurements, and sent off to the company that supplied the headlining. They're being very, very helpful, but obviously just want to see what the differences are. In the engine building bay, this is the engine ready for the 50th. It's got its new alternator installed. The injectors are all now in place. They've been cleaned and tested on our ultrasonic cleaner and the injector tester. And this is the next engine built up for the dyno test cells. These are run for about 23 hours a day through extensive tests to age catalytic converters. They complete anywhere from, as I said before, 1,000 hours up to well over a couple of thousand of hours, which I think on their drive cycles is the equivalent of something along the lines of about 250 to 300,000 miles. Because of the way they run them, and the frequency of oil changes, and the grade of oil they use is 2050 with a high zinc additive. When we do pull them down, the camshafts and tappets are still perfect inside of them, so that really does show if you maintain your engine well with the correct grade oil, these engines will go on forever. So that's this week's workshop update, really. I don't think there's too much else to talk about. We've got the Royal Edition will be up for sale soon. It's now had its work done, so it's now going to go and be photographed and videoed, so we can pop that up online if you're interested in that, or know anyone that might be. Very rare Royal Edition 46 HSE. Thanks for watching this week, guys, and yeah, any Rover V8 related questions, give us a call.